All right, and welcome back to the Vendetta Sports Hockey Show. I guess that's what we're calling it. We don't have a name yet. Andrew McGuinness is joining us this week, along with the two that were here last week, Gavin Daly and Emma Brown. Emma, did you come up with topics this week? Because I do have topics, but you're probably going to yell at me for them.
You know what? I won't yell at you for them.
Because you didn't come up with topics.
Yeah. I won't yell at you for them because I didn't do what I said I was going to do. So.
Okay. I figured that was going to happen, so I came up with topics. All right. So the first segment we're going to do is the same as last week, on or off sides. If you think the statement is true, you will say on sides and give your reasoning. If you think the statement is false, you will say off sides and give your reasoning. Chicago Blackhawks. They are 2-0 since they fired their former head coach, Jeremy Colleton. Does this mean the Blackhawks are maybe back, or does this mean nothing? So on or off sides? Andrew, go ahead.
Offsides. I mean, maybe you're right, but I mean, 2 games is such a small sample size, and they've dug themselves into such a deep hole. I know there's some crazy stat that Elliot Friedman's tracked since forever. I think since like the start of the salary cap era, I think only 3 teams or something crazy like that who are been 4 points out of a playoff spot on November 1st have gone on to make the playoffs that year. Blackhawks, I believe, are one of 3 teams this year to be in that situation. So it's going to take a lot more than 2 consecutive wins for me to put them back on the right side of the bubble.
Gavin?
Offside. They're still a bad team, but as long as Marc-Andre Fleury keeps picking up points, I don't give a fuck.
Okay.
Actually, no, I take that back. I dropped them today. They can be as bad as they want to be. Fuck it. I don't care. They're a bad team. They're a bad team.
Emma?
Offsides, even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes, eventually. So.
Yeah.
2 in a row.
I figured that would be the answer. But they do play Arizona next, so maybe it'll be 3 in a row.
I mean, probably.
The only team worse than you.
All right.
I have the stat from Elliot Friedman that I was just referencing. It's 9 of 59 teams since the 05-06 season have made the playoffs after being more than 4 points out of a spot on November 1st. It's a little bit different this year since the season started about a week later than normal. But honestly, that probably makes it even more damning on the Blackhawks that they were out of it so quickly. So
I know stats guys like you are definitely celebrating the Seth Jones thing because he has not looked good.
Yes, the analytics community, I think, is winning that more than the analytics community thought they were going to win.
All right, next thing on the list here, Brady Tkachuk. He was recently named the captain of the Ottawa Senators. Do we think he deserves the captaincy, or do we think he does not deserve the captaincy here? Gavin, go ahead.
So, which way? I don't think he deserves it. I think that is Thomas Chabot's team. I think he deserves captain. Obviously, we don't know what goes on within the organization. They may have offered it, and Chabot said, no, you know what? Tkachuk can have it. It may have been something that Tkachuk put into his deal when he signed it that, you know, okay, yes, I'm signing this deal, but I have to be made captain. There's a lot of different things that could have possibly happened. I still consider the Ottawa Senators to be Thomas Chabot's team, no matter who has the C on their chest. So, to me, I don't think he deserved it. To me, it's more about how did he get it? Was he the unanimous choice, or was it something that was, hey, yeah, I'll resign for you guys, but I want that seat.
Chabot, he currently leads the NHL in ice time, so that's an interesting stat. Emma, what do you think?
I mean, it's his team.
I'm gonna say that there's a lot of politics that go into the captaincy and who gets the C and who doesn't get the C. So I feel like I can't really say on or off sides just because I don't know enough about Ottawa. I'm not going to try to make an opinion. There's too many politics. So,
Andrew?
There you go.
I'll say onside for this one. I mean, Chabot would have been like a perfectly legitimate choice, but Tkachuk is a perfectly fine choice as well. Former top 5 pick. He's been one of their franchise faces the last couple of years. And obviously they signed that long-term extension, so that's a guy you know is going to be there for the long haul, just like Thomas Chabot. I think either would have been an onside choice.
I like him. He likes to fight people. He's scrappy, puts the puck in the net. It's hard to root against that guy.
Yeah,
All right,
actually,
next
you know
thing-
what? I take it back.
yeah.
I don't like him because he scored his first 2 NHL goals against the Flyers. I forgot about that. So sorry, Brady.
And the Flyers are on tonight against the
Yeah,
Maple Leafs, but we'll get
If I
to
seem
that in a bit.
distracted at any point tonight, it's probably because I'm watching the Flyers game on split screen on my laptop. So
Fair.
Actively supporting the Maple Leafs tonight. Come on, Jack Campbell. Let's do this.
No, we're riding for Carter Hart. We're riding for Carter Hart.
yes, Stada.
Fuck no.
They can both play
All right.
well. Carter can just play a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I need the points more than he's. Fucking
All right,
Black
next thing
Magic
on my
Trey
list.
here is pulling some
Yeah,
shit.
I have the black magic.
Campbell just made
All right,
two
next
big
thing-
saves early on. So there you go, Gavin.
Well, I don't like to hear that. It's been a while since Farabee's gotten a goal. He needs to, put one in the net here.
Yes, that line looked much better on Saturday. So we'll see if they can turn it around. I'm sorry for hijacking the show. Very
It's cool. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. All right. Next thing on my list, Rope Hintz. Gavin has cut him and then repicked him up. So far, he has 2 assists on the season, which is the same number of assists as Sharks goalie Aiden Hill, who recorded 2 assists last night. So are we concerned about Rope Hintz? Is it fair to say that maybe Rope Hintz, his last season where he scored 43 points in 41 games, it was a fluke? Gavin, we'll start with you. On or offsides?
Onsides, because I am dropping him straight after tonight's game. He picked up just for tonight's game because I didn't have enough players playing and I didn't want to fall too far behind the points. So he was picked up specifically because they were playing. I blame you totally on this, boy, Andrew, because in your Deaths and Cheese, you put it out there that this guy was going to be good this season. And I listened.
Well, he was
Trey
really good
didn't,
last
but
year,
I
and he
listened.
was hurt every single night. So logically, it seemed like he was going to be.
Maybe
He was great last year.
we just need to hurt him. Maybe we just need to injure him.
Yeah,
Maybe that's
it's
the thing.
his
Maybe he plays better when
superpower.
he's injured. I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah. Also, he's getting dropped after tonight's game, so I can
As
pick up
former
someone else.
Notre Dame tight end Troy Nicholas once said, you got to love the pain.
Now, it may help that early on in the season, Jason Robertson did not play. He is back now, or has been back for a couple of games now. He usually plays with Rope Hintz, so maybe that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Andrew, do you think on or offsides here?
Well, if you're saying, the question is Rupe Hintz going to be a point-a-game player this year again, I'd say offside. If the question is Rupe Hintz going to be better than he is right now, I would say onside. I was actually reading about this today, an article by Dom Decision at The Athletic. Rupe Hintz has a comically low 1.5% on ice shooting percentage. So when he's on the ice, his team is only scoring 1.5% of their shots, which is destined to go up. I think his line is a 60% expected goals rate. I think Dom also mentioned that. So if they keep that up, he's going to improve. I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year, but I think he's going to be better than 2 points in 13 games or whatever he's at right now.
Emma, do you even know who Rope Hintz is?
Yes, I know who Rupe Hintz is. That was actually
Okay.
so rude of you to assume that I didn't. And I think way too logically about this because I think that there's nothing to be worried about because hockey isn't linear. It's very up and down. So right now I don't think there's anything to be worried about. If in another 13 games he still sucks, maybe you should be a little bit worried, but I think right now it's fine.
Hockey is random is just a great point for any hockey argument, if we're being honest. I mean, it's true.
Yeah, so fuck you, Trey.
I don't know. I did have Rope Hintz on my do not draft list this year. So in my fantasy article I released. So maybe I'm onto something.
Maybe.
All right, Emma, we'll start with you with this one. Nathan McKinnon, it was announced he's out for at least 3 weeks here. Is it fair to say that maybe it's time to hit the panic button with the Colorado Avalanche? On or
I'm so
offsides?
upset. That is onsides. I am very upset that he's out for 3 weeks. I'm worried. I haven't had time to watch an Avs game this season. They're on very late. But I've heard that their defense has been very bad. Not very bad, but questionable. And so I'm panicking for sure. I feel like that's onsides.
Resident Avs fan, Gavin.
It's onside. Andrew just put out a stat there a little bit ago. Teams outside the playoff spot by 4 points, was it? November 1st.
Which the Avalanche are not. On November 1st is the stat, which the Avalanche were not. I think there were 3 teams this year: Montreal, Chicago, and Arizona.
Because I was
just
just
one of those teams.
I was just going to say the Avalanche right now are 6 points out of a top 3 spot in their division, and yes, it is time to worry. The defense has been particularly bad this season, but they haven't got a settled defense. Taves, McCarr, Gerard have all been in and out of the team. The only 2 definites have been Eric Johnson and Bowen Byram. So I'm not as worried about the defense as I am about the forward line. You've got that top line, which once everyone is fit, will be fine. I'm not worried about it. The second line I'm worried about because Nichushkin, while good defensively, is not an offensive force. Kadri and Burakovsky go through far too many periods where they just do not do anything. They don't put up points. And if your second line's not scoring, that puts more pressure on your top line.
That's point per game player, Nazem Kadri, to you.
This season, point per game. But let's face it, he has not hit a down spiral yet, and he will at some point. I'm not worried about.
I don't think Nazem Kadri is going to score 82 points this year. But I mean, you're talking about pushing the panic button for this season, so I'm looking at this season's numbers.
Kadri's probably been one of the best players on JT Comfort, but again, that's because Kadri's played a lot of games. So, and the fact that
I don't think Kadri should be punished for being like one of 5 Avalanche players who hasn't gotten hurt yet.
Ooh.
No, definitely not. I'll be totally honest with you.
That's not even that's just it happens to a couple teams every year, and the Avs just unfortunately happen to be one of those teams this year.
Yeah, with McKinnon out, Kadri's going to be playing on that top line. There's no doubt about it.
It was actually reported that JT Compher is going to be playing on the first line. That's what was reported.
Yeah, panic button. We're fucked.
Andrew?
So I don't have a rooting interest in the Avalanche, so it might be. It's definitely easier for me to look at this and say the panic button obviously does not need to be pushed because they are still the Colorado Avalanche and they're gonna get all these players back. It's not like any of these guys are out 6 months or anything crazy like that. We're talking a couple weeks, maybe a month and a half, worst case scenario. They're not. It's not like their record is like the Blackhawks where it's 3-10 or whatever. So it's not like the gap is insane to make up. Although I think what did Gavin say? They're 6 points out of a divisional spot right now. That is a little bit concerning. But I mean, they're still the Colorado Avalanche. They have so much talent. They have so much depth when healthy. Everything is going to get better. You just have to have a little bit of patience. I can actually drop some breaking news right now. A notification literally just came across my computer screen. Anaheim Ducks general manager Bob Murray resigns, will enroll in alcohol abuse program for Sportsnet.
Wow.
A lot of NHL GMs getting hit with some allegations here. Mm-hmm. Wow.
It's the game's changing. And
Gavin, you can answer Bagdonis' question at the bottom too if you want. Would you trade Sam Girard?
For what offensive help? If you'd have told me trade Sam Girard and get Jack Eichel, yes.
Well, yeah.
Well, it depends on
what
offensive help is you get it.
If you had told me trade Travis Sanheim and you get Jack Eichel, I love Sanheim.
No, but
I'll drive you to the airport.
Obviously, I mean, it's some sort of package deal. Like Sam Girard and say Martin Kaut or JT Comfort. Which, let's face it, is what Vegas gave up.
And also
because Tuck's a second line, third line? And at first, if you tell me that, then yes. I give up Sam Girard for offense. But you have to be more specific, like what offensive help? I guess
real quick, what's more concerning, the injury bug or Darcy Kemper in net?
I'm going to let someone else go first here.
Well, I mean, the injury bug is something that you figure is going to sort itself out in net. or not in net. It's going to sort itself out as time goes on. Kemper's probably a little bit less of a guarantee. I mean, I haven't watched the Avalanche play very much either, just as I don't have the time, and I also play very late, like Emma said. He's got a 908 save percentage looking at it right now, which is decent. Not amazing, but it's not like he's playing like 2021 Carter Hart, like 877 bat or anything crazy like that. So I mean,
he's back though.
As the team, yes, he is very back. We can talk about that later. But you also have to figure as the team gets healthier and they get guys like McCartan and Kevin Tays back, the defense is going to improve. That's going to make Kemper's life a little bit easier, and his numbers are going to go up. It's always tough, especially for goaltenders when they go on to a different team, especially for I got my goalies mixed up for a second there. I was going to talk about Philip Grubauer, wrong, former Colorado Avalanche goalie. But it's always tough for goaltenders because they have to really learn how their defensemen play in front of them and all that good stuff. I remember even Peter Mrazek, when the Flyers traded for him mid-season, once said he gave up a goal because he didn't bang a stick after a penalty was ending, and he said because he couldn't find the penalty clock at the scoreboard. So just weird little stuff like that gets sorted out over the first month or two of the season. And I think both are going to sort themselves out, but I would say the slightly bigger concern for me is probably Kemper.
All right, last one here for on or offsides. Emma, we'll start with you. Denver boy, Troy Terry. He has the longest active point streak in the NHL, 12 games in a row with a point. On or offsides, Troy Terry is becoming a star.
Onside. I mean, he's young enough that, like, you can say that, and if it doesn't turn out to be true in a couple of years, you're not going to be, like, shit on. And, like, Anaheim's a team that eventually they're going to get this whole rebuild thing figured out and they won't be shit. So I think he should be one of the players that they build the team around. So I'm going to say onside.
Andrew?
If you're talking about the word you used was superstar, correct?
Sure.
if superstar is the threshold, then I would say offside. He's shooting 31% right now. That's obviously not going to sustain itself. If you're talking about impact player, top six guy, yeah, absolutely. I think Troy Terry is a fine young player. He's having a nice breakout season. I know, his shooting percentage is going to come down, but he's also playing well, and someone on the Ducks has to score. So, yeah, why not him? He's only, 24 years old, something like that. So, still young enough where I think Sprague's not going to be like a point-a-game player forever, but, yeah, I think he could be an impact guy for the Ducks and definitely part of the solution for them moving forward.
Andrew, has there been any surprise that it's been Troy Terry instead of Max Comtois that's kind of broken out, or no?
I'm not – I mean, Comtois was really good for them last year. He led the team in points. Maybe a little bit.
I just had to say that because Gavin drafted him, so.
Okay, good to know. I guess maybe a little surprised that Terry's doing this well, but not necessarily. I wouldn't have picked him to have a 12-game point streak, but if you told me that Troy Terry is one of the Ducks' best forwards through 15 games or whatever, I wouldn't have been incredible.
He probably has been the best.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that Trevor Zegras kid, though, they got, he's pretty special, too.
Gavin, Troy Terry, you're in on him? Well, he's on your fantasy team, so I'd assume so.
I'm in on. But I actually agree with what Andrew said. I was going to agree with Emma until Andrew's spiel. Superstar probably not. But would I take him on the Avalanche second line? Yeah, definitely. No questions asked. Considering Kadri's age and everything, you take him on pretty much any second line in the league. I think that's the biggest kind of praise you can give him.
I mean, I don't think he's going to be any Connor McDavid. Nobody can be Connor McDavid, but I think he'll be first or second line in Anaheim. So
yeah, that's what I was saying. He could be a top six guy for them moving forward. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. The biggest news this week, obviously, the Jack Eichel trade. So I just want to maybe go around and hear maybe each person's 30-second to a minute opinion. Did Buffalo get fleeced? Did the Vegas Knights make a mistake? What are your overall thoughts here on the Eichel trade? Because it happened literally the day after we recorded last week. Andrew?
I wouldn't say that Buffalo got fleeced in this trade. I wouldn't say they certainly won it either. I mean, you break down the return piece by piece. So they get Alex Tuch, who's been mostly a third-line guy in Vegas, but is definitely good enough to play in your top six. He's a speedy winger, can score 25 goals, 50 points. He's also a Buffalo native, and he seems really excited to be a Sabre, which not everyone
Yes, he does.
knows the Sabres is. That's a good thing. I know their GM, Kevin Adams, has talked a lot about getting guys who want to be in Buffalo. That's a guy who wants to be in Buffalo, and he's a pretty darn good player on top of that. Not a superstar, but a pretty darn good player. Peyton Krebs has the potential to become a top 6 guy as well. Could be part of the solution again for Buffalo moving forward in a couple of years as they really start to accelerate their rebuild. A first-round pick, I mean, it's probably going to be a late first-round pick, and it is top 10 protected, but it's still a first-round pick. That's another potential top 6 forward, top 4 defenseman that you turn into. And you also get a second-round pick. I don't think it's an amazing return, and maybe they could have gotten more if, say, they moved him at the draft when teams had more financial flexibility and were looking to maybe more teams would have been looking to make a bigger move. But obviously, with the complications with the surgery and the Sabres losing leverage really the minute Eichel demanded a trade request and it only going down over the time that's passed, I think it's a respectable return for Buffalo.
Gavin, any thoughts? I know you talk shit on it in the power rankings, but any surprise there that Buffalo refused to retain any salary? Probably could have gotten a better return there too. They did that.
No, but that was
clearly not ready to win either. So
yeah, but that was their thing right from the off. They said they were not retaining salary, so that made it difficult for a lot of teams that would have been in on Eichel, but were very, very close to the cap. In Eichel's interview with Elliot Freeman, he said that at one point he really thought it was a strong possibility he was going to Colorado. I would love to know what the stumbling block for that was. After seeing what Vegas gave up for him, I would be really interested to know what the Avalanche weren't willing to do. Now, obviously, we don't have this year's first round, so that could in it. We gave that up for Darcy Kemper. Great job. But it would really interest me to see what Colorado weren't willing to do. Because as I said a minute ago, if you're giving me Jack Eichel and take Sam Girard, JT Compher, Martin Kaut, a ton of freaking prospects that we have and draft picks, then I'm saying yeah. So in that aspect, I think Vegas won it. In what they gave up for Eichel, I think yeah. And as Andrew said, Buffalo wanted people who wanted to be there. That's one of the reasons why he took him going the other way. He wanted to be there.
Also, I'd like to add, I think Buffalo was really smart for not retaining salary. I mean, yes, they're obviously not going to be cup contenders this year or next year, but 5 years is a really long time, and you just never know what can happen. I mean, the Maple Leafs are still retaining salary on Phil Kessel right now, $1.2 million. They could really use that cap space. So I don't think it would have been smart for Buffalo to make such a long-term financial commitment to having money off your books for someone who's not playing for your hockey team, even if it could have turned that second-round pick into another top 10 protected first.
And the other thing as well is Trey, is what are Vegas going to do going forward? Because that depth becomes really, really dodgy here, really, really quick after this season. Like, yes, you've got a great top line, but as the Avalanche have shown, you can't do everything with your top line. As Boston have shown, you can't do everything with your top line.
Also, a fully healthy Vegas team is nearly $5 million over the cap.
Yeah, I was going to say
with no spares accounted for.
I guess the move would be to let Riley Smith walk, and then
I'm saying like this year, if everyone gets healthy before the playoffs, they won't be allowed. They'll have to move someone like now.
Someone will take Riley Smith.
That could be just like throwing a sweetener to someone for Evgeny Dodonov, who makes $5 million.
I would do that yesterday.
That trade again. when they made that trade, I kind of defended it because Dodonov had been good in Florida, and I basically said, all right, this definitely takes them out of the Jack Eichel sweepstakes. You don't trade for a player coming off the year that Dodonov had in Ottawa who makes $5 million if you even think you have a chance of still getting Jack Eichel. So now they've actually gone out and gotten Jack Eichel. That trade looks really rough, especially because Dodonov has been great in Vegas so far.
Emma?
I mean, I'm not at all surprised with the trade. I was hoping he would end up in Colorado, but I wasn't really counting on it just because, I don't think we have a player that Buffalo would take, that we'd be willing to give up. Does that make sense?
Makar, send him Makar.
Absolutely not. You're on drugs. But yeah, I also would like to know what Colorado wasn't willing to give up, but I'm not shocked that he didn't get to Colorado. I was kind of surprised that it happened that quickly after we recorded last week. Yeah.
I wouldn't be
You guys might have to
surprised if
careful.
one of the
The
pieces.
show might already
Wouldn't be
have like.
surprised if one of the pieces. I wouldn't be
Sorry,
surprised
yeah,
if one
you
of the pieces Colorado weren't willing to give up was Justin Byram.
What about Bowen
I
Byram?
would not be surprised if that was basically. No, you're not giving up Bowen Byram. You're not giving up Bowen Byram, Cale Makar, because that's your top.
Alex
that's your top
Newhook
defender
was
for
the
years
name
to come.
that came to my mind as like a Peyton Krebs comparable.
And here's the thing:
I don't know if
would,
they'd be willing to
if
give
you're
him up
giving
or
me
not.
Eichel, I give Newhook. But what else is in the deal? If you're talking Sam Girard, Alex Newhook, and picks, maybe, yeah, sure, why not? Because here's the thing, like, Joe Sakic, and we praise him all the time, and I've a lot of love for Joe Sakic. We talk about how good of a GM he's been and some of the deals he's done, but you're very much in win now mode. If you don't win in the next 2 years, and it becomes a lot more than getting paid. So get Eichel now, do it.
I think that's the biggest argument for Vegas, right? They're definitely a win now team, and they're not young.
Yeah,
Pacioretty's in his, I mean,
yeah, they need to
30s,
win this year.
Petrangelo's in his 30s, and Stone's up there. They're not spring chickens, despite being a semi-new expansion team.
They need to win this year.
Okay, I have 2 goalie notes here. I wrote an article on Jack Campbell because it kind of feels like the Maple Leafs
Bastard.
have to find a way to keep him, and I did it because I was playing Gavin this week in fantasy, and I know
Yes.
maybe we'll throw a little black magic on Campbell. So it's an interesting little note here because what do the Maple Leafs do here with Jack Campbell? Because this isn't a guy who has a long track record, but for the most part, since he's been in a Maple Leafs uniform, he's been very, very good. So do we think a contract extension can happen here? I kind of link that maybe the Cal Peterson sort of contract is maybe something that could happen, but he's been better than Cal Peterson. So, Andrew, do we
Yeah, but he
think
also
this is
doesn't-
something that'll happen?
He doesn't have a lengthy track record like Peterson.
Right.
I know that there were reports that he was already talking. His camp was already talking extension with the Maple Leafs. I know he said after a post-game interview like a week or 2 ago that he'd love to stick around. I definitely think the Maple Leafs would certainly like to keep him. I mean, he's been phenomenal for them since coming over from LA. I don't think he would necessarily break the bank, although you combine, say he gets $5 million, which I believe is what Peterson makes. You combine that with Peter Mrazek's cap hit, now you've got like an $8 million tandem, which is on the pricier side, I would say, for a team that does, like, if you have an $8 million tandem and it's a $7 million starter, that's one thing. If it's split 5 and 3, that's a little bit different, in my opinion. So I certainly think it's something that the Maple Leafs would like to do. I think my gut is that they'll find a way to get it done. That's my gut feeling.
Emma, do you see Jack Campbell a priority for Toronto? I know they have a lot of money committed to a lot of guys on that team.
As a priority, I don't know. I think Toronto, I think they have a win now like mindset, even though they're not quite there yet. I think their win now mindset is just like getting further than the first round in the playoffs. So I think he definitely could be a priority, but I'm not sure. I feel like goaltenders are never the priority, even though they should be. So, yeah.
Gavin, he's on your team. Toronto, find a way to keep him? Okay. I guess until Gavin resolves itself. Andrew, are you concerned about the fact that last 4 games, only the top 4 guys have scored? Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Nylander. Nobody else has scored a goal over the last 4 games for Toronto.
I think Maple Leafs fans would be concerned if those guys weren't scoring. I know they were early to start the year. I mean, all the
There's 2 ways to look at it, though, right?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
they're winning if they're performing,
they're
but
obviously
at the
going
same
to
time,
they're going to need
Yeah.
some depth scoring eventually, but I don't think it's necessarily the biggest issue in the world. I think getting those guys on track is more important right now than having like an abundance of depth offense. So I think it's good. I think I see that sound. I think more good that the Maple Leafs top guys are getting back on track, especially Mitch Marner, who's looked much better the last couple games than I am. Oh boy, Toronto's depth. That's just how I look at it.
All right, last goalie note. I heard this when I was watching the last Hurricanes game. apparently Freddie Anderson was offered a similar contract by the Colorado Avalanche. He turned it down, decided to sign with Carolina instead. Emma Brownie's been on fire. Do you think he made the right decision by signing with Carolina, or do you think, hey, maybe he should have went to Colorado?
I think he should have gone to Colorado. I think he would have been much better than Darcy Kuemper, but that's me speaking as an Avs fan. I think for him, he probably made the right choice, but I would like him in Colorado.
I thought you were an Islanders fan, Emma. I just spoke.
I'm both, Andrew. I am both.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
I'm both. Thank you.
Gavin, I'm not sure if you heard the question, but apparently the last
Yeah, I did.
Carolina Hurricanes game I was watching, they said Freddie Anderson offered a similar contract by the Avalanche. He turned it down to sign with Carolina.
I mean, if it's me, I'm going for the Avalanche. Because
No, not you.
they should be thereabouts. They should be there. If it's the exact same contract, then they should be thereabouts. So I'm going with the Avalanche. It'd be interesting to know why he went with Carolina. Could it have anything to do with the tax situation in Florida?
At the time of signing, I would have said that Colorado is a better team than Carolina. And I still think that, although the gap has definitely shrunk significantly, I would say. And that more has to do with Carolina being good than Colorado being injured and not spectacular out of the gates. But, I mean, obviously, it's worked out very well for him so far. It is 10 games or whatever, but, I mean, I don't think Freddie Anderson's thinking he made a mistake right now, and I wouldn't disagree with him.
All right.
I think at the end of
two
the
more.
season, he'll know he made a mistake. I think at the end of the season, he'll know he made a mistake.
All right.
That is a legitimate take. I will defend the possibility of that take, but I don't think it's insanely likely or unlikely.
All right. Two more segments to go here.
Just because if Colorado goes deeper in the playoffs or has like a slightly better record than Carolina, that doesn't necessarily mean he made a mistake. I mean, I'm sure he's happy in Carolina. So
hey, Carolina's been on fire this year.
Yeah, and it seems like a nice place to live. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of hockey players love their
good fans.
Love their
they got
quiet.
they
have a great fan base.
Called. Yeah.
Yeah.
Surge.
Surge or whatever the fuck.
Yes. I mean, do they even still do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they? I thought they ditched it after like the first year. They didn't do it in the 19 playoffs.
I watch Carolina almost every night they're on. They absolutely do it.
Good for them.
Yeah. All right, two more segments to go. I did the symbol blogs today. I listed the Detroit Red Wings as the best buy on the market. I guess this should be the question. Are the Red Wings maybe a sneaky playoff team here?
I don't think they're a sneaky playoff team, but I think they are a team that could play meaningful games into April. I mean, they're young kids, especially Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider have looked very legit so far in the year. I mean, the whole point of this season for the Red Wings is not to make the playoffs. If they do, great. But the whole thing for them is just show progress this year, and that's what they've done so far. Could they maybe pull off like a 2016-17 Maple Leafs run where all the kids just come up at just the right moment and they're able to sneak into the playoffs? I mean, sure, it's possible if some of the Atlantic powerhouses have disappointing years or whatever. I mean, that is probably the toughest thing working against Detroit right now is just how good that division is. Just looks like it's going to play out, especially at the top. So playoff team, no. Sneaky competitive team, I'd say sure. Why not?
Emma, I know you hate the Red Wings, but they've been surprisingly good this year.
I'm going to try to be as unbiased about this as I can. I don't think their team is young enough to be a sneaky playoff team. I think they can for sure be competitive, like Andrew said, but I just don't think they have enough. They're a little old. So.
I mean, most of the best players are pretty young, but I guess
I also hate them.
The periphery.
Bertuzzi's been on fire too, and I'm not sure when Vron is coming back or if he's coming back, but that's another piece that will be added eventually.
I saw a great tweet the other night when Detroit was playing in Toronto. Something like, Bertuzzi's looked invisible tonight. He doesn't have a single shot because of the COVID situation with him.
He's he's the only unvaccinated player in the league, I believe.
Yeah, so he wasn't able to play in that game. So yeah. Now you get it. This is just A++ comedic timing by me.
Got it. Yeah.
And the setup was just wonderful there.
Gavin, fair to say that maybe the Red Wings have a bright future, possible playoff team?
they have a very bright future. Possible playoff team, possibly not. The only reason why I say that is because they've got to get past 8 teams in that Eastern Division. That's going to be really, really difficult to do. You think about Pittsburgh are bottom of the Metropolitan Division right now, and they're only 4 points behind Detroit.
And Crosby has barely played, and Malkin hasn't played at all.
Exactly. They're going to come good. The Islanders are struggling. They're going to come good. And then you've got Washington, Rangers, Carolina, Florida, Tampa, Toronto, Boston. It just seems like there's too many teams there for them to overtake right now.
Well, the whole reason the
with
Islanders,
them,
sorry, Gavin, you finish.
Go for it.
No, sorry, you finish. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I just think there's too many teams for them to go past. That would be my whole point. I think they definitely have a young team.
I agree with you, and the point I would make about the Islanders specifically is they're on this gauntlet 13-game road trip to start the year while their new arena's ready, which I actually look at and kind of see as almost an advantage for them, because if they can just tread water on this road trip, win 6 or 7 games, if they win more, that's awesome. But if they can just win 6 or 7 games on this trip, now you're coming home and you have 41 of your last 69 games at home, which is an advantage that no other team in the National Hockey League has. And we all know how great Islanders fans are and how much of a home ice advantage they had at Nassau Coliseum. I'm sure they'll have a great home ice advantage at, I believe it's UBS Arena is the new name of their new rink, whatever it's called. I think the Islanders are definitely going to bounce back. And I think that home road split is going to be a big reason why I think they're going to have a big second half of the year. So.
Are Islander fans great, Emma Brown?
Islanders fans are dickheads if you're not an Islanders fan.
That's true.
It is UBS Arena. I'm very excited. I'm going to the second Islanders home game. It's the Toronto game. Super stoked for that. I agree.
Awesome.
With Andrew.
All right. The other symbol post that I wrote, I listed the Blackhawks as the worst team to buy on the market. I guess for obvious reasons. Is there maybe another team that you would consider as a bad team to invest in, or is the Blackhawks just the obvious answer here?
No,
Are we talking this season?
This season? It's technically, hey, I'm investing, I'm holding this stock for as long as I want.
Then
so you can hold the stock for 5 years.
Because I was going to say Arizona, but Arizona are in a really good situation this year. To tank and get draft picks, do really, really well in the draft. So
well, yeah, I mean, that's not going to turn around.
Chicago, yeah.
That's not going to turn them around instantly. I mean, the very best case scenario for Arizona probably doesn't see them make the playoffs until 2024, I would say. So, I mean, Chicago and Arizona, it's those are both pretty good picks to be bad. So, yeah, sure.
Hey, Shane Gostisbehere, leading point scorer for
Ghost. I feel so
Arizona
bad
right
for
now.
Poor Ghost. I miss him.
Emma Brown, would you pick another team other than maybe the Blackhawks as the worst investment?
I mean, maybe if we're looking at you're holding this investment for multiple seasons, maybe you'd look at I don't even know. But for this season, I would say Chicago.
All right, last segment here.
The only other even possible ones would be Arizona, just simply because they're in a good position with draft picks this year, but they don't have a stadium for next. They don't have anywhere to play next year as of right now, I believe. That would be the only other thing that I could think of that you kind of.
Things are not looking good for Arizona.
They would be a good bet. Yeah, it does.
Even Chikrin, who I really like, has not done anything this year. All right, last segment. I think this went well last week. Finding Emma Brown a husband. This is looking at young players who are on the up that we can decide are good enough for Emma Brown. So the first pick, maybe a little bit off the map here. Seth Jarvis, he's 19 years old. He was just called up by the Carolina Hurricanes, former first-round pick. He has 2 points in 4 games. He is skating on the fourth line, so he's not getting a ton of ice time. But he's looked pretty good so far in Carolina. Marty Necas has come up and looked good, so it seems like a team that can develop talent here. Andrew, think Seth Jarvis is maybe the real deal?
I mean, you make a good point about Carolina being able to develop young forwards. I mean, a good chunk of their core. Svechnikov, Aho's
Aho.
homegrown, obviously. Terravano isn't homegrown, but they got him when he was pretty young from Chicago. Natchez, of course, is another big homegrown guy. Jacob Slavin on the back end. I mean, I don't know enough about Seth Jarvis to say like necessarily, oh, this guy's going to be like a star for them moving forward. But I mean, yeah, a former first-round pick. He's obviously got a ton of potential. I think he could be a very good player in the not-too-distant future. He had that
Gavin,
big breakaway
Seth?
goal in Chicago the other week.
Yeah,
and
that
they
was an
came back
awesome
from
goal.
3-1 down.
Gavin, good enough for Emma Brown?
Yeah, sure, why not? We'll go with Seth Jarvis. I mean,
Emma Brown, good enough for Emma Brown?
he was a high enough draft pick, and he's going to get paid. So I'm looking out for Emma's future here. I want her to like be a kept woman. So yeah, why not? Go for it.
Okay.
Okay, can I put my input in?
Yeah, he is younger than you, so maybe that's a down.
He's younger than me, and he's only 5'10". I looked him up, so
5'10" is tough. As someone who's
And he-
5'9".
How tall are you, Andrew?
I'm 5'9".
see 5'10".
I like to say I'm 5'10" on a good day.
All right.
5'10" is like my minimum.
Okay.
Like they can't be shorter than that.
All right.
We can get him stilts.
I
mean,
picked.
on skates, he's probably taller.
Does Emma Brown?
Yes, Emma Brown only
Yes,
dates
Emma
tall
Brown only
guys.
dates tall guys.
Yeah. And no beards. She does not like beards. Clean shaven only.
Oh shit, that's
All right,
my one gone.
All right.
Sorry.
I picked.
I was going
picked-
to say Kyle Connor.
I picked two Avalanche here. First one, Alex Newhook. I would have picked him before, but they did recently call him up from the AHL. So now with the Mckinnon injury, he is up on the Avalanche again. Alex Newhook, do we feel good about his long-term outlook here, Andrew?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing as Jarvis, right? I mean, former first-round pick. I think he's a little bit higher than Jarvis, but I mean, former first-round pick, very skilled. And he got his feet wet in the NHL last year. I mean, if you're just naming like guys with like top 6 potential in EA sports games right
Yes.
now, I feel like so. And like in that sense, yes. If you're looking for an 84 overall in your franchise, year 3-year franchise mode, then yeah, sure, yeah, you're 2 for 2.
Gavin?
Yeah, Colorado have not the greatest track record of drafting players and then seeing them all the way through. So I worry about Newhook a little bit. I really, really do.
Yeah, McKinnon bummed it.
So,
He never
again-
turned out to be anything, or
Again,
Landeskog, or Rantanen, or Ryan.
okay,
O'Reilly.
so we got
Paul
2 of
Stasny.
how many? Like 2 of how many? You know, like.
I also did say
Makar,
Landeskog.
Bum.
And again, Rantanen top 10, Landeskog top 10, McKinnon top 10. Like they can hit
Well,
it in
I
the
mean-
top 10, but that's easy. That should be the easiest thing in the world for you to do is if you have a top 10 pick to hit it. When it starts getting outside that top 10, like Martin Kaut.
Hey, Nolan Patrick was picked in the top 10, all right?
Top 2.
Yeah, I know. You do get busts. How about that? I just worry about Newhook a little bit. He didn't look great in his first stint. It's going to depend a lot on what he looks like in this next one. He did well for the Eagles. He did really well for the Eagles. But there's one thing about doing it in the AHL and then doing it in the NHL. You've got to make that step up. And Newhook
Yeah, Brown, are you
really
a
needs
Newhook
to make
fan?
the step up now.
I love Alex Newhook. I think he's great. Yeah, that's my input.
He's also only 20 years old. It's not like the guy's necessarily running out of time. I know.
Perfect.
prospects
That's
get
how old Emma
I
Brown
know.
is.
I know prospects get old early, but Newhook's got some runway.
All right. Well, another Avalanche. Bowen Byram. He's been playing well. Makar is currently on the injured reserve, and he has been kind of the top line guy there. Playing well. Time to invest in Bowen Byram here.
That's a keeper. I cannot wait for the time that it's Byram and McCarr on that top line. That is going to be fucking.
It's good to see
that's
Trey has
most
stepped up from
exciting.
medium tops. Good to see Trey has stepped up from medium top 6 guys to a guy with like medium elite potential. So
Okay.
I've decided to purely rate these players in terms of like video games.
Oh,
It's just
shit.
the way I've gone.
I'm getting a call. Hang on. Emma Brown. Keep going.
I love Bowen Byram. I like Bowen Byram and Cale Makar playing together is going to be scary once
Yeah.
Bowen gets to that point.
They were both 4th overall picks, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back to
I know
back
Bowen was-
years.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Byram
Ottawa had
was
the
the
worst
one
record
from
that
the
year. They
Senators.
lost the lottery.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
was picked by the Senators?
Byram was the one from the Senators.
Well, it was with the Senators pick that you got from Duchesne.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Byram and McCarr on that top line. And I know Emma just said once Byram gets there, I don't think he's too far off. Like, he's definitely been the Avalanche's best defenseman so far.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely not far off, but he's not there yet. By the end of the season.
And that just makes it even more scarier because you can see from the images that we have of McCarr, he's not playing at 100%.
I
So
gotta
Byram,
go.
100%.
I got an important phone call, but the last segment I had was sending it over to Andrew McGuinness and telling us how Carter Hart is so back. So that's my last segment.
Wow, really leaving it up to me. I mean, I'm obviously a big Flyers fan in case anyone doesn't know. So I've watched all of Carter Hart's games this year, and yeah, the kid definitely looks back. I don't necessarily think it was a hot take to expect that he was going to bounce back. I mean, he had a .917 save percentage as a rookie, and then a .914 save percentage as a sophomore, and then an .877 last year. I think it's fairly, I don't want to say fairly clear because yes, there was always a chance that Hart, sucks this year too, and that maybe he's going to have like the Matt Murray trajectory where he has a couple really good years at the start of his career and then falls off. So I don't want to say it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to bounce back, but I mean, of those three numbers, 877 is clearly the outlier. He has 6 goals saved above expected per moneypuck.com, which puts him right around the top 10. He's looked very sharp in all his games. I've been watching the Flyers game tonight. I'm alongside this show. He's looked sharp in the first period, faced like a dozen shots against Toronto, stopped them all. So good news for Trey. Good news for Gavin. Jack Campbell stopped all of his too. So, I mean, I wasn't necessarily expecting not this from Carter Hart. Maybe he's been a little bit better than I would have expected this early in the season. I mean, you understand with a .926 save percentage, so maybe like a tad better than I expected, but I was always expecting Carter Hart to bounce back, and it's good to see those expectations rewarded.
I don't think any of us are surprised or hold it against him that he bounced back. It's just the fact that Trey picked him again, and he's picking up him fantasy points that I cannot stand right now.
Also, similarly to how Connor,
they needed him to bounce back because if you have Martin Jones as your backup, you need your starter to be good.
Well, I was actually gonna make this point. You know who the NHL leader in save percentage is as of yesterday, maybe today, with at least 3 games played?
Martin Jones.
Martin Jones, baby. He's seen 100 shots and he stopped 95. Martin Jones has probably even looked maybe like a tad better than Carter Hart so far this year. Now, I'm not saying Martin Jones for starter, Martin Jones for Vezina. I mean, obviously he's not going to have a .950 save percentage forever. But the thing about Jones is he's looked just really steady so far as the Flyers' backup goaltender. He's looked locked in. He hasn't the criticism from his play in San Jose when it fell off the last couple of years seemed to be that he got chaotic, that he got moving around too much, that he got himself out of position. He seemed very in control with the Flyers. And yes, obviously 3 games is a ridiculously small sample size. And yes, he's not going to have a .950 save percentage forever. But the Flyers' goaltending looks pretty solid so far this season. And for everything that went wrong with the Flyers last year, I made this point in one of my recent game recaps. For everything that went wrong with the Flyers last year, they finished only 19th in a league where 16 teams made the playoffs. And they had like an 880 team save percentage or something close to that. So if you just boost that number up to top 10, top 15, I mean, that alone in itself is enough to maybe get them into the playoffs. Maybe not all the way, but at least get them very close because they were already fairly close beforehand. And that's before you even factor in young players bouncing back and the moves that Chuck Fletcher made in the offseason to get guys like Ryan Ellis and Cam Atkinson. So, yeah, I mean, also I don't think it can be understated either. The Flyers defense is better than it was last year, which, I mean, again, like with Hart, you expected that bounce back because of how terrible it was last year. But they've also made life a little bit easier for Hart and Jones as well. They haven't been perfect, of course, looking at you, Rasmus Ristolainen, and Travis Sanheim as well. But yeah, Flyers goaltending. It's good for once. It's nice. I guess this was what it was like back in the 70s when you had Bernie Perron or Ron Hextall in the 90s.
I'm just waiting for it to fall off. I'm really sorry, but I'm waiting for it.
I mean,
I'm waiting for Hart to go back to the way it was last season. I'm waiting for Jones to be Jones, and then I ask myself, what do the Flyers do?
I think you could definitely make it seem smart to expect Jones to go back to Jones. 'Cause, I mean, 3 straight years of an 8.96% save percentage at his age. I mean, it's not easy to reverse that trend. The one interesting thing about Jones is that the Flyers goalie coach, Kim Dillabaugh, was actually his goalie coach when he was first coming up in the NHL with the LA Kings organization. So that was one thing I looked at. Okay, if you're expecting Jones to bounce back, this is a legitimate reason why you could expect that. And that was something I even had keyed on. Others had keyed in on before me. I wasn't like the first person to point this out or anything. But other people had keyed in on that before the start of the season. And so far, it's been playing out like that. And then I obviously talked about Hart earlier, where, I mean, you look at his save percentage across 4 years and last year, as of right now, seems like the very clear outlier. Could it eventually age into not being the clear outlier? Yes. But we're not there yet, and hopefully we won't be there, and I don't think we are going to be. So, yeah.
So you mentioned there about goalkeeping coaches. How important do you think they are? Because one of the things I've noticed about the Avalanche this season is that Darcy Campbell's blocker side has been fucking terrible.
Well, we should just ask Emma, who's an Islanders fan. She can tell us all about Mitch Korn, who's like the goalie whisperer up there with Barry Trotz, and what he's done for guys like Robin Lehner and Semyon Varlamov and even Ilya Sorokin.
I love Ilya Sorokin. I think he should be the starting goaltender. When Semyon Varlamov comes way too far out of the net, then that's when they lose. Is when that happens, because he just basically lets pucks in.
Is that bad?
Yeah,
It seems
I think
bad.
the goalie coach. What? The goalies up here are good, except, well, sometimes they're good. Sometimes it's very patchy.
I mean, since Korn and Trotz have gotten there in 2018, their goals and defense has been much, much better.
Yeah, Trotz was like the best thing to ever happen to the Islanders, for sure. And Lou Lamoriello too.
Yes.
Yes.
We need
I
a
also
goaltender
have to
coach
go.
done
I
really,
have
really badly.
another meeting.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to wrap the show up. Obviously, Trey had to leave early.
Yeah.
I think we're ready to close out just the Vendetta Hockey Show, 2nd episode. Pretty good one, I'd say. So, again, thanks for watching. Follow all of us on Twitter. Our socials have been flashing along the bottom of the screen throughout the entire episode. Follow Vendetta as well. Make sure to check out vendettasportsmedia.com for tons of hockey coverage, including my recap of tonight's Flyers Maple Leafs game and every Flyers game the rest of the season. So thank you all for watching. Emma, Gavin, have nice nights, guys, and we'll see everyone next time.